Hello hero, it's Lucy Lannon. It's good to see you. You've seen the title, so at this stage you know more about today's reading than I do, since I speak to you from the recent alternate past. This is a general, timeless one, ideally designed for quite a large audience, so we won't get as specific as we would in a private booking, link down below. If most of what I'm saying feels like an answer to a question you've been living, take those tidbits with you and let a fellow traveller excavate the rest. If it's not your reading, there are playlists on my channel hub to randomise finding something else. Whilst it's true that a broken clock is right twice a day, I'm not sure that same clock is right 10 times within the hour. So trust yourself, above all, to know what's useful for you and what makes you feel more empowered for hearing it, no matter what your beliefs. While we're on beliefs, on this channel gendered terms are just a specificity of language to describe energetic tendencies and signatures, solar or lunar inclination in accordance with a hermetic law of polarity, and not any kind of socialisation to buy into wholesale or conflate with the identity or orientation of anyone described. Romantic and spiritual labels used are plucked from lengthy precedent predating any unfortunate trending controversies or engineered cyclical backlash. My dude, around these parts, we don't relinquish the complexity of our full histories. We trust ourselves cognitively to adapt what we consume and see what's healthy and long-term accurate. I'm legally obliged to say this is entertainment in quote marks and that I'm an occultist not qualified in unrelated disciplines to advise on physical and mental health, finances, legalities. You get the picture, you're in charge of you. All my readings are protected and warded by frankly magnificent beneficial forces, though I don't share my custom prep rituals on camera any more than I give out my address. I hope the reasoning behind that is obvious, but you can trust there are zero parasitic or adversarial influences permitted within 100 unseen paces of any signal we patch from the noise here today. So sit back, relax into the shape of your most luminous possible future self, cozy up to imaginal allies, and take in whatever it is you need to hear. If you do like it, this small channel with a big mission very much appreciates subscriptions, thoughtful comments, or donations in order to spread the word and keep the lights on. Now, let's tune that dial. Apologies if I sound like a little smidge of a bunkholio today. I'm recovering from a cold at the moment, and I will be absolutely fine by Thursday, won't I, gang? Put all you can into that. I've got a gig I really want to go to. But that's besides the point. It's just if I do have the sniffles at any stage, or if I sound a little bit like the guy from Green Day, it's not my intention. It's just the tail end of that stuff. I'm going to venture a guess as to, even before we look at the cards, this being a financial reading, right? Because you're seeing the Bank of Eternity 1 million bob note, which I found in the lift for my friend's apartment the other day and felt very fortuitous, even if on the back it is essentially a Christian leaflet. But I thought I'd keep that because it was good manifesting, and indeed this reading may pertain to good manifesting where abundance and money are concerned. We've also got lapis lazuli as the initial crystal, which makes me think of dreams, the dreaming, projection, the crown chakra, that kind of thing, which again is about creation by not non-material means, but not necessarily beginning in the material realm, right? So dream it, be it, that's kind of energy, rather than just thinking about an idea once and then doing it. You are manifesting it or dreaming of it for a good long time first, and then it's happening. But then we have some contrary energies kind of in, I wanted to say in the tin. So you may even be saving money in a tin at this point. Firstly, we've got the moth and the Lenormand. Normally I use a plain card for this particular section, but this one was pulling today. It's the Red Hand Lenormand by Pixel Occult. Highly recommend his decks. They are fantastic, no affiliation, they're just great. This would be the Two of Pentacles, but it's also speaking to potential misdirected energy or a flight from something. It can be transformation, it can be very positive. The moth is a symbol of manifestation in very sort of lunar circles. But what I'm getting with the rest of what we've got is more of an evasion energy. Excuse my lack of words. Then we've got the 7th house or partners in reverse. this isn't just partners. Astrologically speaking, this is any connection of a one-on-one nature, an intimate nature. This can be business partnerships that are very one-on-one, or where you have to work very closely with another person. It can also relate to the descendant, which is whatever we deem not true about ourselves, that we therefore project out into the world and come across a lot. So if somebody has a descendant, how do I want to say this? If someone has a descendant that carries traits that they really would not like to see in themselves, they will more than likely encounter person after person on a one-to-one level who has those traits in order for them to realize that they have the potential for them and to heal it within the self, right? It's a little bit like a twin flame journey energy, but it's not necessarily with the romantic component. It's just that sense of this experience within another person, or this experience of them, is mirroring something in myself. If you really heavily identify with that, just as we're going in, my mirrored souls, try before you buy, or indeed my paid one, may be for you, but it's not an obligation. It's just for people who know that they're in that dynamic and know how it pertains to this straight away. It might be useful, right? Then we've got, why won't you ditch your ex? This sucks. For this DIY stuff and for a money reading, see it more generally. Again, it's not just intimate partners. It's a conversation with anybody in your life in a kind of spirit level way. So this is, why won't you leave something in the past? Why won't you close out a chapter? This sucks, for them specifically. And then there's, I want to protect you instinctively. Now we've got giving back, which ties into money and everything, and blue violet hue I'll come to and sort of echoes this. But overall, really, the feeling I'm beginning with moth is that this is not to do with your relationship with another person so much as to do with your relationship with money. And I say that very consciously, bearing in mind that you may be someone who is currently identified as being in a relationship with money. You may have said aloud or laughed to yourself about, sorry, I can't date you right now. I'm in a thing with money. Money is my boo, right? Or money loves me, or any of these other kind of affirmation type, I want to say gestures. They're wanting me to tell you that I was going to light incense at the beginning of this reading, and I couldn't find Dennis, my arc lighter. So I ended up calling around the house for him, asking spirit all sorts, not finding him, and then going, right, well, to do the same kind of offering, I will spray very expensive perfume everywhere, because we know already from this that it's likely to be about abundance, right? So enjoy. It is a dupe, it's not the original value, but I think the perfume that it's a mock-up of would have been about 400 quid, and I'm not willing to spend that on a perfume. I don't know about you. You may be in a much savvier position than I, but it's the smell of somebody who would spend that, right? That's what this is emulating with my 20 odd quid knockoff that I found online, and is actually absolutely perfect, right? So there's something here about as well about emulating a particular lifestyle when one is not necessarily in that mode yet, as a form of manifestation. But again, there's a misdirection of energy here, and I think that's in this kind of, oh, money and I are together. And if money was an energy, if we do like a Ramsey's Little Book of Demons thing with money, and we say that money is an entity and you guys are courting, as my grandmother would say, my feeling is that from money's end, money is saying, why won't you ditch your ex? So I hope that translates, because we're going to get further into it, but it's almost as if you're coming to me, or coming to this reading, saying, I don't need love. At the moment, I'm in a relationship with money. And the reading is saying back, money wants you to be in a relationship with all the things that money can enable, which includes love relationships, it includes time spent sort of leisurely on yourself. It includes a family life, if that's something you identify with. It includes creative hobbies and therefore output and productivity. You know, there's all these things that aren't directly linked to a soft life in the sort of the way that you see it portrayed online, at least. But if money is required to flow into all these areas, then these areas need to be flowing back, and we need to be giving those areas back to money. So if money is coming to you and saying, here is enough for travel, and you don't go on the journey, and I'm as guilty as you right now, that's going to affect your close, personal, intimate 7th house relationship with the entity that we call money. And I want you to think of it like that, even if you're not comfortable usually with anthropomorphizing things or kind of turning them into servitors or spirits or whatever, because it's a useful way of coming at this kind of abundance manifestation. I'm going to ditch the chair again. I keep doing this in these kinds of readings. You may be seeing this out of order, and this is the first time I've done it, but I'm going to sit on the floor because I need to ground. Okay, I hope the sound quality hasn't altered too much from doing that. Where do we start? Where do we begin? I don't know whether you can hear me gurgling. That's interesting. So before this reading, I felt quite out of sorts for one reason or another circumstantially. And I decided that the way to solve that problem was to eat a great deal of sushi and watch Attenborough. And it did the trick. Highly recommend. But I should not be gurgling right now. I am not hungry in the slightest. If anything, I'm overstuffed. And watching Attenborough made me sort of think about that and think about consumption and taking more than I needed, and doing that as a regular way of self-soothing, including in my sort of food life. So that may be relevant to some of you, or there may be some other mechanism by which, again, you're kind of overindulging beyond the realm of need, or beyond the realm of baseline satisfaction and everybody's happy, into what might, in terms of how it affects the planet or how it affects the rest of your life, be seen as an excess, right? We've got a 4 of Pentacles with the Devil reversed. First up, your situation is being described as somebody who is in a kind of holding pattern or a state of pause financially in order to do what I think you think is breaking a cycle or an addiction or a obsession with something or someone. Now, money does want to protect you instinctively, but again, there's this why don't you ditch your ex? So if anybody here is using money, for example, to get over a breakup or away from a fixation with a particular person or set of intimate circumstances, shall we say, there is indication in the cards that whilst that is a positive idea in some ways, it's kind of not working. The reason it's not working is, again, that money needs to flow backwards and forwards through you into all the different facets of your life in order to be a thing that you can focus on and maybe even distract with. Now, devil reverse can be a breaking free of the devil addiction pattern, but a reversal can also be a suspension. And if this was an astrological retrograde, it would be a calling to examine something in greater detail or reflect on something at a deeper level, which is how I take these reversals, by the way. I don't know whether that's how the deck's intended, but it's just helpful. So we're being asked to focus on your intimate relationships, you know, be they romantic or otherwise. And we're also being asked to focus on the breaking of addictive patterns, or dare I say overindulgences in certain areas, and how that relates to you putting a full stop to things. An example of this, and it may not be your example because, again, general reading, is somebody who feels that they've been maybe overgiving, which is coming up later on, and sort of overinvesting in a particular situation on the emotional level, and therefore decides that on the material, which is far easier to control for this person, they will put a stop to anything that might constitute an overspend, right? So you may be going on a no spend year, or you may be cutting back budget wise, or getting a lot tighter with bills, or going without certain things that you used to enjoy, all of which by itself is admirable and not a problem at all, right? In fact, in some other readings to do with money, I believe I've recommended those things. But I think that it's been used here energetically to put a pause to the part of the system that wasn't actually the problem. So it's almost as if you can't stop somebody else from behaving the way that they were going to behave, whoever they are to you. And you can't stop, or you perceive that you can't stop your own addictive capacities around those kinds of things, or habits that you know are linked with those things. But what you are quite good at is materially holding back, or doing something to do with money that is getting into this kind of luxury manifesting energy and being very rigid and strict with it, very disciplined, in a way that actually is not allowing for a free flow. And this is even if this is abundance practice and manifestation. This is even if you're not cutting back, but in fact, like this guy in the mask, you're just sort of mirroring your material circumstances, paying more acute attention to things, which can be a kind of descendant response. It's not that that's bad, again, it's that with this moth, it's been used in a kind of evasive way. You don't want living your best life or being in financial abundance or even being financially careful to become the way that you deal with a feeling of the lack of control elsewhere in your life. That's what I'm getting. This day I am giving back. Now, these cards usually are a kind of suggested exercise for whoever's receiving the reading, but in this case, I think this is to do with the energy of reciprocity and the idea that it is only when one gives that one can receive. It is only that when one lets go of something that it can come into manifestation. I know some of you are already groaning. I'm so sorry. It says, donate or volunteer with a local charity to support a cause. Help spread their message by sharing success stories. Again, money, or at least taking care of yourself financially or indulging in luxuries in a responsible way, might be something you're quite good at. You might have been able to share that success. But the feeling I'm getting is that because you've acknowledged a hyper focus on something else, you're now switching your focus back and hyper focusing on money. And you'll notice that this energy from money is protective and quite possessive in this why won't you ditch your ex thing. It's the energy of like a possessive relationship. And I'm not saying you've just been in one. For some of you, you might have. But if you're saying you're in a relationship with money and money is your boo, and then money's relationship to you is one that's actually quite overprotective and quite accusatory, that's not a healthy partnership, right? So it's like, okay, if you're going to go out with money, fix the way that you and money relate, right? Fix the way that you speak about money, the way that you let money in, what you allow money to see of you, right? I dare say that if you're doing this in any response to any kind of relationship or situation, it might be that some of the problems you had in relation to that person around full transparency, around being able to be yourself, around being able to pursue what you want to pursue, around having baseline standards for things and good boundaries, are also issues that you may be discussing in your financial relationships right now, or be thinking about in your financial life. And again, the way to get away from repeating patterns is not to just turn to face another aspect of your life in the kind of wheel of different things. It's more to say, well, if this is true in this area, how is it true in other areas? And how can I heal those first if they feel a little easier, using what I've learned from unrelated things? And I do that because nothing is unrelated, or I wouldn't be able to give you this reading. Blue-violet hue. So this is the purest version of a colour, and it's a colour that, amongst other things, describes a descent into reflection or a meditation on the self, which is very kind of fiery and spirited and soul concerned in nature, but which may lead to a moment of destruction, of cutting off, of revelation in quite a dramatic fashion. With violet, think tower energy. Not always, but it's some sort of catalyzing force. Another good example for those who watch or watched before it was cancelled, Age of Resistance, is the darkness moving through Thra, right? That sort of purpley colour in the eyes taking over everything. Because that itself, as we learn later in that series, is a necessary component of the cycle that brings healing to the land, but it's manifesting in this very destructive power. So it's this kind of Kali energy, this storm raging through circumstances of history and causing all kinds of war and destruction in order to get to a point of relief, which is all part of it. It's like a forest fire after which things can grow in a different way. Now, I'm not saying this is happening to your financial life, nor am I saying it's happening to your intimate relationships. Instead, this is an invitation to go into a period of reflection and say, something is trying to die off here. And by entering into a different relationship with money, my attempt in all of this was to leave it behind me. But my relationship with money, or the reflection from money, from abundance, that I'm getting back to myself at the moment, either through limitation or through sort of strange circumstance or whatever, is, why won't you ditch your ex? Why won't you have this tower? What is the resistance to letting go of certain things and truly moving on? Something else I was getting while I was shuffling was the Nine Inch Nails song Closer, which may seem completely out of the realms of this, but it was specifically the lyrics. I've got no soul to sell. Something help me get away from myself, right? So it's this, sorry guys, it's late. It's a feeling again of like, I don't want to bargain myself away. I don't want to exchange anything that I can't afford to exchange. I mean responsibility energy. And yet you're turning to money to get away from yourself. The next sort of echo of that lyric becomes, help me think of somebody else, right? So again, if there has been a conflict in your personal life or your professional life or whatever, in a one-on-one sense, maybe that descendant energy of something that you want to be the other and not part of the self, and that you're seeing in other people because it's like what you're not, then, you know, there's like there's a flight from that into the distraction of, well, I'll just manifest a load of money, or I'll just work really hard and get my material shit in order. Or if I can get on my feet in terms of security and finances, everything else will start to fall into place or make sense. And my addictions will naturally fall away because I won't be like using them to cope anymore, because I'll be satisfied. And now I'm hearing Unsatisfied by The Replacements in my head. One of my favourite songs, check it out if you haven't. There is a sense here that unless there is a flow through your finances, a receiving and a giving back, that is a little bit more open than this energy, this very fixed thing that you're in, it's not going to work out how you expect. And part of that openness is a process of forgiveness, which is another thing to do with blue, where you go into, I accept that I'm going to receive all this, or that I'm going to earn all of this stuff by working hard for it, or whatever works for you. But where do I need to forgive in other areas for things to flow more easily? Because, as you've seen, 1001 times on this channel if you are a subscriber, this is the magic penny card. Hold it tight and you won't have any. Lend it, spend it, and you'll have so many they'll roll all over the floor. This is to do with money and love, right? There is a stuckness with this. Yes, there are coins to distribute freely, but notice they are all tied to their bearer. It's not like he can exchange them at market. Everything comes back to this figure. So it's like I'm laying out my money, or I'm counting it on a table, or I'm laying out the plan for attracting in this abundance, and I'm using my third eye and my lapis lazuli and all these good things. But all of what I want is actually tied to the ankles, interestingly, which is a point of vulnerability, right? It's talking about momentum. It's talking about flexibility. If you've been having issues with your calves or ankles, take that as a confirmation that this is to do with how flexibly you feel you can move in the world after what's just happened to you. And I don't think that what just happened to you in that sense is to do with your money. I hope this is making sense. Please hit me up in the comments if it is. Okay, moving to a deeper understanding of these circumstances. We have the Four of Wands depicting a couple, notably, and then we have a Six of Pentacles reversed. So I do think there was a need for stability somewhere or with someone. Yes, celebration, but more so stability in this particular deck. And particularly a need to work closely with somebody. So if you are not relationship oriented right now, or if indeed you're asexual or anything like that, take this as there was a one-on-one thing with somebody on some platonic level that would have led to a feeling of security, and possibly like a material contract or a way of establishing that in a rooted fashion. And then for those who do resonate with the sort of romantic interpretation or something like that, there was a trust established with a person which would have brought this feeling of balance and this Four of stability in. And instead, what I think happened is that there wasn't an equal distribution of wealth in the sort of spiritual sense, resources in the emotional sense. There may have been a dynamic where one or the other of you treated the other like a charity case, or treated the other as something to be assisted to the point that one would be fixed, rather than given too generously from a spirit of generosity or indeed reciprocity. It's giving like, I'm going to help you get to this baseline standard of this threshold of life, but only so that then you are acceptable to my family, friends and other. Or, you know, if there was no giving in this, it's kind of, I'm going to tell you I have nothing to give, but I might be giving elsewhere, or you might be over giving to me and I'm not giving anything back, that kind of a thing. And again, it will differ from person to person because this is a general reading. And again, it doesn't have to be romantic, but there's almost like there's a really sort of patronizing feeling under all this of like, let me help you to help yourself. And I think underneath all of this stuff, part of the reason you're refocusing on materiality is maybe an assertion, even to yourself, that thank you kindly, I don't need fixing, or I don't need rescuing, or I'm not at your baseline because it's never somewhere I wanted to be. There's a deep misunderstanding here between two people. For some of you, just because of who this looks like and who I know and stuff, this was to do with a marriage, maybe a divorce, maybe a marriage that didn't happen, or something that had the potential to be a marriage, but there wasn't a reciprocity there, or there was a kind of, like I say, like a saviour complex energy that I really don't enjoy at all. And this giving back thing is like, there may be some resentment around that, because it's like, well, in each time that you're generous with others, there's a deep down, maybe like a, what do I want to call it? Maybe like a trauma echo of somebody giving to you, but in a way that made you feel like you needed to be saved, or that was a kind of talking down to you whilst giving. Another example might be if you were cared for within a family home and also simultaneously made to feel like you should have migrated from there now, or that the only reason that they would have to care for you is because you got yourself in a particular situation, in their opinion, right? And if that is you, and I think it's just a minority of you, I want to say that's not the full truth of this, and I hope that you know that, and I hope that you know that if someone is willing to give you their help, they should not also be making you feel shame for receiving that help, whether that's romantically or in a family situation or a friendship group or anything, you know? But there's something here around that. And I think your response to that happening may have been some kind of addictive or repeating cycle energy, you know, repeating the same kinds of relationships as a trauma response to that, or, you know, maybe having addictions around overspending or food or gambling or sex or any of it around this. And then going, you know what, actually, screw you, person from the past. I am a responsible adult, and I'm going to prove that by being extremely fiscally responsible, or by exhibiting this kind of perfume spraying, over soft life, opulence energy to show very publicly that I have had a glow up since, or that I have got myself back on my feet since our encounters. But again, the energy from money, who is your current partner, is, why are you doing all this in relationship to your ex? Why are you dating me, money, to show off to your ex on social media? Why are you using me, money, as a rebound, as a distraction, as a place to put yourself to think of something else, right? Again, hope it's all making a kind of sense. Then for a kind of outcome / solution vibe, we've got a hermit with an 8 of cups with a 4 of swords. Let me just think on this for a moment. The hermit is very much like echoing this blue-violet, going into yourself to think about all of this more deeply kind of energy, and examining which of your financial practices at the moment are healthful ones and which are, I don't want to say reactionary, but which are perhaps related back to whatever this mood was. But then the 8 and the 4. There is an emotional movement away from all of this, as indicated by the 8. That's the most kind of obvious interpretation with this card. But I'm also noticing that they're looking back and they're armed. And it's almost like a don't follow me. And then with the 4, this so often signifies rest, but it's got like a night energy, which is present in the Smith Waite to a lesser extent, but it's the sleeping king in the Smith Waite. Whereas here, it's like, I'm resting in meditation, but I'm also, again, ready to draw the sword. I'm getting a feeling of Oren Ishii in Kill Bill. So that might be relevant for some of you. There may be a line that she says or something like that that's going to click some of this in for you in a bigger way. And if you haven't seen Kill Bill, then it's just great. Watch it, unless you hate violence, which fair enough. But but it's like, it's an ever readiness. There's not the restfulness that is traditionally in this card. There's not the emotional release that's traditionally in this card. It's much more wary. It's got that Orpheus Eurydice vibe. And then even with the hermit, he's not holding the lantern aloft to light his way. He's going, look, a lantern. And it's vibing back to this kind of performative social media, soft life is very public type energy, or like, look at my new job, or look at how much I saved, or look at how much I'm giving up, how much I'm sacrificing, look at how much I'm going without, look at how much I'm giving back. It's a bit, I'm not coming for you here because this is all stuff I've done, but it's the same energy as virtue signaling, but in a financial sense, where it's like, look how great I'm being, but there is actually not a need to broadcast that. And I think that's why money, your new boyfriend or girlfriend, feels a bit butthurt right now at the way they're being treated. And I have to agree, right? It's like, don't use me for clout. I'm not your trophy on your arm, yeah? I want to protect you instinctively. That is what money is designed to do. And yet you are still entering this relationship with money in a spirit of defense, self-protection, and sort of showing everybody else where we're at with it. So partly I want to say the solution to this, as well as being in this energy of what am I avoiding with this new focus on materiality that's potentially inducing, anxiety and overwork and sacrifice, or at least it's like giving a performative energy that might be socially problematic. With all of those things, what am I trying to escape? And meditating on what this former situation was and what it meant for you, romantically, professionally, financially, socially, in all areas. Because just as money touches all areas, so does everything else, right? Particularly love. And once you've kind of been in that rumination, there's a sense of put the sword away, actually get away, actually rest, confirmation. Sorry gang, I get hiccups when something's on track. Yeah, there's just like a sense of, I'm now hearing that fabulous bit in The Princess Bride where he says, drop your sword. And it's a fantastic speech. If you haven't seen it, please YouTube it, but or just watch the film because it's great. But there's a thing of, that's almost money, right? Money is, I forget the guy's name, the Red Pirate Roberts, facing his sword at you and telling you to drop yours as a threat, right? And for context, in that scene, he's just been on a bed, having ingested a good deal of kind of poison and paralysis stuff, gradually regaining the ability to move and knowing that he's going to have to sword fight a guy as soon as he has his strength back. But you kind of never know when he's fully recovered. He's bringing it back ever so gradually and then doing a poker face as to when he will stand up. So when he does, and when he says that line, it's a huge thing. And this is kind of the money thing of like, it hasn't necessarily been clear until this reading that your attachment to material security, which is absolutely a viable thing to worry about, or indeed to manifest in a positive way, it hasn't been clear that that attachment has been related to all this. But it's kind of money knows, even if you haven't fully been conscious of it. And as soon as money is back to full consciousness, money is ready to say, hey, you, drop your weapons, take me seriously, right? I am now taking the castle back. I am now rescuing the princess. And it's not a permanently damaged relationship with money in that sense. It's a growth into, if I'm going to say fun things that are floating around the internet, like I'm in a relationship with money, then money is going to have something to say about you as a boyfriend, girlfriend, or other. And it's time to listen. It's time to be held accountable. In the same way that, God willing, anybody in any kind of relationship with you will eventually grow into accountability for their actions. But we can't control that. We can control ourselves. I feel like this has come over like a lecture, and I'm really sorry. But again, these are all energies I've been in, and particularly the distraction of proving one's worth via getting more settled in a very material way in order to show someone that they've really missed out, or that things that they said about your reliance upon other people or whatever were not true. I totally empathise with that. But what I want to tell you is that this isn't a love reading or even an intimate partnership reading. This is a reading about how your relationship to money and abundance and flow and receptivity is being damaged by the framework that it's been in. And if you're seeing it, and if you've gotten this far, and if you haven't clicked off because you're annoyed at me, then there is something here to discuss with money on the kind of etheric, or to discuss with self about not where your ideas and attitudes around money came from, because I suspect you've done that work with the journey that you're on with materiality, but where a renewed focus on money began, and what it was maybe trying to escape from, nullify, counteract. And what that situation tells you about your relationships, including to money. For your extra divination thing, I was going to use what I call curse coins, but I'm told they're for a different time. So, sorry about the noise. We have here a box of dye with some salt. I apologise for the salt scattering everywhere, but it was a handy way to cleanse as well as roll. And I'm going to, for the first time on the channel, do a numbers reading. I'm not entirely sure how it will work until we've done it, but let's go, right? Maybe the difference between those two things is an indication that if you were putting coin by coin into a tin or having a bad time with money, now we're dealing with lots and lots of numbers, okay? So we've gone from stashing money in a cereal box in your house to a bank account full of digits, right? So that's a positive movement forward in my book. But it's also speaking to the nature of like fiat money, like gold or copper in the case of British money and the coins that I use, versus digital money, which can mean non-traditional currencies, but more than that means the idea of money, which relates back, right? So we're speaking about your ideas about what it is that you are able to earn, receive, or indulge in, rather than the coins that you can literally put in your piggy bank at home. I hope that makes sense and is clear. Right, what else do we need to know, guys? Clearly nothing from that one, because it's rolled way out of my reach of my mic. So I think that message over there is for me. But we have a 6, a 5. Wait, that was a 6, wasn't it? Yeah, it just rocked. It's fine. 82, and that's interesting. A 4, but you'll notice it's fallen as that pyramid. So there's many of you are working in American dollars because of that pyramid design, right? Okay, I'm going to just meditate on these and then I'll come forward with what the numbers are suggesting. With 80, what I'm hearing is the Tank Girl quote, 8, the burning 8, right? Well, it's not from that, but that's where I'm hearing it from. And then I'm having that multiplied by 10. So where we spoke about destructive fire, or indeed like holy fire, if you think of like the violet flame, we're kind of multiplying that experience tenfold. And again, this isn't a threat. This isn't speaking about your future in some way. This is saying that when I was speaking about a kind of destruction, moving through and letting go of old cycles and maybe cutting off an ex or some kind of older energy related to this devil card, you may have kind of rolled your eyes at that point at me and said, yeah, but it's 10 times what you're giving it there, or it's 10 times more complicated than that, or I'll be here fighting this particular thing until I'm 80, right? And I think that is paired with, I want to say this 4. So stability is ensured with that. There is like a way to reach this 4 of Wands energy over here. It may not be the original way you went about it. It may not be, you know, in the original circumstances with the original person even. But you're not going to be going at this again and again, or going through these fires or going through these patterns until you're 80, right? This is there is a stability energy coming through, and I dare say stronger, because a pyramid to me is a more significant shape than this one here. 5 with 2. 2 is interesting because we've got a 2 of Pentacles for the moth. So as we're taking flight and as we're maybe misdirecting some energy, we're also juggling 2 different things. This can be 2 aspects of life, or this could be 2 sources of income. So for those of you who haven't thought about making passive income through something that you do as a hobby, or through selling stuff that you've already made for fun, or anything along those lines, now is the time to consider that, because the 5 adds an element of something else to the 4 stability. But 2 is about balancing 2 different things, keeping 2 plates spinning, which is a very sort of Pentacles idea. And if you already have like a side hustle or something like that, there is some kind of chaotic thing coming in for that. There is an unexpected development. There may be, I want to say there may be a negative experience at first, which is going to turn out positive. So an example, if you're, say, another reader on the internet, is that you may get somebody very negative in your comment section. But as a result of the algorithm, when you're kind of arguing your place in our universe with this trollish person, you know, double or triple the people that usually see that kind of video will see it. Or to use a completely different example, if you're in an office environment, there may be someone added to your team that is brand new, bit of a rookie energy, bit of a wild card, and they make the project that you're working on a less than stable venture. They take it from stability to something a bit more chaotic, but actually how you handle that is going to lead to more stability, because it's going to be noted that you dealt with this person very well, and perhaps you'd be, you know, promoted onto something else, or sent to some kind of HR job or something like that. So again, this can take many different avenues and roads, because I'm reading from many people. But there's something here about spinning 2 plates and then an unexpected avenue opening up from that, whether it's further income or whether it's something a bit odd happening that leads to financial gain. And then finally we end on this 6. Now 6 is the energy of the Lovers card, and you can see how many other numbers we could have had on this one, right? It's the biggest one. I think even the one that fell on the floor over there does not go up as high a number, because this is 20, right? So we had all those chances and we still landed on the Lovers. So if this is like a romantic circumstance that you've perhaps wanted to distract from or feel bigger than by gaining some material stability, I think what this is saying is don't lose hope on that. I think this is saying that by reconciling sides of the self, as with the Lover's card, you may come into a love relationship pretty soon after that kind of deed is done. But again, because it is the 6 and because it's about reconciliation and 2 equally matched things speaking in a fair dialogue to each other, perhaps with supernatural mediation, I think it's talking about this conversation with money as your person of interest. And when I say reconciliation, I want to caution against those of you who are wagging your tails at that word from thinking that I'm referring to a specific person. I think part of the reason there is a block in flow at the moment, financially and otherwise, is maybe the fixation on a particular person, right? And I know I know how hard that is, right? Go elsewhere on the channel. I talk all the time about personal twin flame journey. I talk all the time about how difficult it can be to move on. But from very recent personal experience, it is only when you fully let go that things actually turn up which are more for you than anything else has been in years. So it's, I'm not saying you're going to abandon an attachment to that figure. I'm and I certainly haven't in my own life, you know, but what I am saying is that those doors opening up for you can only fully open once your focus is a bit more dispersed. I'm not saying take it off altogether. If you want to keep a special place for somebody in your heart or anywhere else on you, then do so. But perhaps take the focus off readings about them. Perhaps take the focus off trying to manifest them back, or trying to do the healing work specifically to bring them back in. And instead, put the focus on, I'm in a relationship with money. How much pleasure can I get out of the money that I have? I'm in a relationship to my own creativity. How much pleasure can my creativity bring me in the absence at the moment of a partner? Etc., etc. You know, expand for family, friends, all these other areas. And once you start to put yourself into those areas, not to be more whole on somebody else returning, but just to squeeze all you can out of life, that's when people start to show up who are either for you in a bigger way or will heal the damage done in whatever this situation was. If this is aromantic, take that same message, but apply it to whatever this pickle was with somebody who exhibits qualities that you don't identify with and that make you wonder about yourself in worrying ways. And try to throw yourself into connections and interactions of a healthy nature where you're getting reciprocity, where you're getting instantaneous giving back, and it's not a sort of charity basis. Nobody's saving you and you're not saving them. It's just literally, wow, you're cool, let's do this. Or, wow, this is an amazing project, I'm in. I don't know where it's going, but I'll do it. I know that's particularly difficult for those of you for whom material concern is you know, stark at the minute, and you're kind of trying to save your own hide a bit financially. But again, wherever you can find space in your own day, and whatever extent you can make yourself happy in turning to other areas, the money will improve, the relationships will improve, the sense of self between ascendant and descendant, or owned self and projected self, will improve, and idiots will stop showing up for you. And you'll be in a position then not just to receive and indulge in that receptivity, and not just to go into metamorphosis in the good moth way, but also to start giving back in a real sense and in a spiritual fashion. There will be no more need for defense at that point. There will be no more, oh, I'm working on getting out of my addiction, because it just kind of dissolves. Like, when, I'm not saying addiction is easy to get rid of, anything like that, please don't take it that way. But what I am saying is that when you're surrounded by the correct people and things, even if you have controlling an addiction in the back of your mind, that environment facilitates being in healthy habits and being doing the right thing for and by yourself, right? So I hope that was helpful. If it was, please like, subscribe, ding the dong, thank you kindly. Share me far and wide, because I'm a small channel with a big mission and I want to vastly increase my numbers. If you would like to book, links down below. If you would like to donate, equally, links down below, because my money comes from all of this. And if not, I hope to see you again, and I hope that you and money have a very sensuous relationship chat in which you work out your problems and can really indulge in each other. Take care.